Crybaby, back again. Can we get audio better on him tonight? Crybaby, you could put lights on the other side of you like I do. You know, you don't have to have them behind you.
Well, I don't have a table out there.
You don't have a table.
Yeah, to put the lamp on. I mean, I'll try something for next time.
Yeah, life is rough, and then you die. So.
Hey, Kent, I'd like to talk about the Pangaea a little bit in the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Now I know that you think that the continents just happen to be that shape, though they seem to fit together: North America, Europe, Africa, and South America. And I know you say that's a coincidence. Okay, go ahead.
Let's take it a little bit at a time, okay?
Yeah.
If I can call up my video number 6, okay? On seminar part 6, I talk about that very thing. In order to make these continents fit together, Africa and South America, they shrank Africa 40%. These are not in the Pangaea pictures they show. And I'll get a picture over here.
Well, we know like Central America and South America, a lot of volcanism has occurred since Pangaea formed. So
we don't know that
Pangaea and it broke apart. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
You're making an assumption. You're basing it all on an assumption. Okay, we don't know that Pangaea ever existed at all. Pangaea, for those that may not know, is the idea that all the continents fit together and they moved, okay, and broke apart over millions of years, of course.
I mean, the continents happen to fit the shape of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, too, if you look at it closely. They fit very closely to the shape of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge.
There's a reason why. Yes, I'll get to it. Man, I've got...
And furthermore, if I can add this, the mountain belts on either side fit together. The Appalachians in America, the Ouachita Mountains in America, fit the fold belts of the Little Atlas Mountains in Morocco, and the Scottish Highlands, and the mountains in Norway, even mountains in Greenland and Newfoundland. The fossils match on all those mountain ranges. They have about the same amount of erosion. Go ahead, I'll let you
this is the typical textbook picture of Pangaea. I forget what the word comes from originally. It doesn't matter, okay? Evidence of evolution of dinosaurs. They talk about Pangaea breaking apart 200 million years ago. You can arrange all the continents and make a chicken out of it if you want, you know? You could probably move them around. See, the shapes of the continents is a pure coincidence based on the water level.
Yeah, but we do have the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, which matches the shape as well.
I agree, and there's a reason for that, okay? They say Africa and South America seem to be a perfect fit. If you take the water off of this planet, you will notice there's dirt underneath everywhere, okay? You couldn't find the continents if all the water was gone. You couldn't find them. All the oceans in the world would be a drop about that size compared to the planet. So did the continent, you see the Mid-Atlantic Ridge there. See, South America is 6.9 million square miles. Africa is 11.6 million square miles. And where's Mexico, Panama, Costa Rica, all the continents?
Well, those were volcanic, volcanically created after that time period. Right. So they wouldn't be part. They wouldn't be part of. They were formed through subduction zones that still exist off of Central America and South America. There's a subduction zone off of southern Mexico, Central America. There's active volcanoes all down the Andes Mountains of South America.
So what he's trying to say is when two continents come together and one gets sucked under the other one, it's called a subduction zone, okay? If they collide and bulge up, it makes some ridge of mountains, or the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Africa is...
Well, the Mid-Atlantic Ridge is, let me correct you there, Kent, real quick, if I may. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge is a spreading center where new magma is coming up and new lithosphere, which is crust plus the upper mantle, is being created. Right. So where you would have continent to continent collision would be the Himalayas, India smashing into the Eurasian continent, or Italy smashing into Europe to create the Alps. Those were from, yeah.
Look at this drawing from a McGraw-Hill Earth Science textbook. Does Africa look 40% larger than South America, or do they look about the same size? They shrank Africa 40% to make them fit, Crybaby, okay? They twisted South America one way and twisted Africa the other way. And they don't tell you the obvious, that if you took the water out of the oceans, there's dirt underneath.
Well, yeah, the continental margins.
Well, the continents are not lily pads floating around in a bathtub. The Earth has a solid, continuous crust. It is cracked up, I agree. That probably happened at the flood 4,500 years ago. And the continents are still moving a little bit, I agree.
But you have continental crust, and then you have the oceanic crust that's being created at the mid-Atlantic ridge. And it's spreading out from either side of the mid-Atlantic ridge, spreading apart North America from Europe, South America from Africa. So that is new crust, which is actually lithosphere crust plus the upper mantle, is being created there at the mid-Atlantic ridge. Iceland, we see active volcanism where that we can see the mid-Atlantic ridge, and we can measure the maybe 2.5 centimeters per year, something like that.
It is moving, I agree. Lots of places on the Earth are moving, and there's earthquakes and volcanoes and all that stuff. I understand.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, the oceans have 12,000 feet of water average in them. The narrowest point across between Africa and South America is 1,769 miles. That's the narrowest point. The width of the Atlantic Ocean varies from 1,700 miles and Brazil and Libya to 3,000 miles between the United States and North Africa. So it has a coastline. 2 miles divided by 1,769 miles would be 0.001130. If the ocean were a 300-foot football field wide, the deepest part would be 4 inches deep. That's a comparison here. By the time they draw it in a textbook, it looks like the oceans are huge compared to the width of the ocean. It'd be a 300-foot football field and a 4-inch depth at the deepest part of the ocean. That's the ratio we're talking about here. So they kind of exaggerated, I think. You have to, for optical purposes, to get people to understand it.
We also, oh, sorry, Ken. Yeah, we also see sediment thickness at the mid-Atlantic ridge is essentially zero, where the new magma is coming up and the new crust is being created. Whereas on the continental margins, we have 10 kilometers, something like that, of sediment that's accumulated because that crust was created 180 million years ago. And we have all these dates from 0 to 180 million years with no erroneous dates in there on both sides of that ridge. Go ahead.
You're making that statement does not make it true, okay? You're claiming
Well,
this is a...
they've done the dating and they've written the papers about it.
Oh, they've done they and some papers. Okay, I got some papers right here.
Well,
okay,
I mean, that's how science works.
I agree. So they say there's reversed polarity. I point out this is not physically possible, okay? The Earth, the crust, the core of the Earth would have to spin a different direction. You can't reverse the spinning ball like that, okay?
Well, it's flow in the outer core. The outer core is still liquid, So the inner core is solid, but the outer core is liquid. And when it has movements in it, it can reverse the magnetic field. And we see this once every hundreds of thousands of years.
We do not see the magnetic field reverse. What we see is stronger and weaker areas of magnetism. Here's what happened. They dragged the machine across the bottom of the mid-Atlantic ridge, and they found areas of stronger magnetism, weaker magnetism. They drew a line through the middle and called everything below normal a reversal. This is baloney. The line should go down here. Stronger, weaker, stronger.
We can measure when that magma solidifies, when it comes out of the ridge, the magnetic minerals in it, the magnetite and what have you, are the polarity. You can measure the polarity of that. And that polarity does change as you go from line to line to line. And not only do the magnetic stripes match on either side of the ridge, their ages match on either side of the ridge. It's very strong evidence for deep time.
The lines may match on opposite sides of the ridge because it was cracked. Walt Brown's book in the beginning and his website, I forget the name of it now, creationscience.com maybe. Anyway, covers this in great detail. He's a PhD in physics. He said, look, there's no magnetic reversals. You can't have a reversal. How's the core going to spin the other way? You have stronger, weaker, stronger, weaker. But I would highly recommend you get that book, creationscience.com. There's his website right in front of me.
I'll look for it.
Earth's magnetic field has declined 10% in the last 150 years, 40% in the last 1,000 years. Declining magnetic field, the magnetic field getting weaker. And Walt Brown has a great explanation of it here. And see,
we may just be in some sort of perturbation of the magnetic field, or maybe we are in the middle of a shift
maybe there's a third option. Maybe it didn't happen at all. Maybe the flood took place and the water that used to be under the crust of the earth, like the Bible says, the fountains of the deep broke open, and like this drawing shows, the water went shooting up. And that would erode a ridge, erode a portion between the crustal blocks. And if it gets wide enough, like a compressed spring, the continents, the magma under the mantle underneath would lift up and it would crack. As this lifts up and cracks, it's going to let water come in, which traps a stronger magnetic field. If it cools slowly, it won't trap the field as if it's flash frozen by water getting in.
How do you explain the mountain ranges and how they match in terms of the fold belts and the fossils that are found there of extinct organisms on either side of the Atlantic Ocean?
Well, let's take one thing at a time. As far as the mountain ranges, here's the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. You have the Appalachian Mountains, which happen to follow the ocean. It's almost
Right,
like
because it's rifted apart, because it's rifting apart at the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, and so you would expect it to be the Appalachian Mountains, along with the other mountain ranges, the Little Atlas Mountains in Morocco, for example, and the Scottish Highlands, they formed as a result of when an ancient ocean there closed up and there was a continent-to-continent collision, like what we were talking about with the Himalayas. The Appalachians were a Himalaya-like mountain range at one time. That's why they look as old as they do. They don't, you have to admit, Kent, the Appalachians don't look like the Rocky Mountains or the Sierra Nevada mountains.
I've been to every state.
You've traveled. I mean,
I've traveled a lot. Yep. The reason the Appalachians look more rounded is because they're eroded more because they were softer sediment, and the flood, Noah's flood would have eroded that. The Rocky Mountains must have lifted up late in the flood and didn't have as much erosion. It could have happened 6 months apart in Noah's flood and still get that vast difference in the way they look. Let me just cover. We got a lot of people waiting to get on.
Yeah, go ahead. That's good. I'm happy with that, Kent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. The plates.
I really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next time.